All right, three, two, one. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the Gonzo Experience Podcast. I am David Gonzo Mamano here for another great episode on this lovely Wednesday morning. So excited! I have an old friend. He's not really not old. He's an old friend, and his second time on my podcast. I think John was on my podcast like 3 years, 4 years ago, maybe something like that. But it's been a while. Bringing him back, John Livesay. Welcome to the Gonzo Experience.
Thank you, David. Always great to be with you.
Excited to have you here. You had a great career and, a career like many of us entrepreneurs and speakers of pivoting. And, you've been nicknamed the pitch whisperer. And I'm sure there's a lot of other names now. You have a new book out
I do.
called The Sale is in the Tail. And we're not talking about someone, having a tail. We're talking about TALE, the tale, the story. And that's what you are. I mean, you are, I think when it comes down to it, you not only are a great storyteller, you are incredible at teaching people how to tell stories on how to, basically make a sale at the end of the day. Right. And so would love to hear about what got you to this book. And helping people. I know it's available on Amazon right now and Audible and all that good stuff. The Sale is in the Tail. But tell us, what kind of led up to this book, your experiences, your journey, and all that great stuff.
Thanks. It's a business fable about a life of a 30-something-year-old medical salesperson struggling, and it's set here in Austin, where I live now, to get out of a sales slump. And I've enjoyed many, many fables in the business world, but there's never been one done through the eyes of a salesperson. Usually it's a leadership thing or a positivity thing. So this particular fable is a story about the power of storytelling. And the goal is to get you to see yourself in this story and relate to some of the struggles that the characters are having and go on the journey with them. And then at the end, there's the 5 secrets of storytelling to get you out of what I call the sea of sameness that most of us are drowning in, where people say, I'm a lawyer, I'm a financial advisor, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a this, I'm a that. And everybody goes, it all sounds the same. But those people who can tell a story are the ones that stand out from all the other people doing what they're doing.
So you have written a story about storytelling.
Yes, which also happens to be a little bit of a love letter to Austin because there's specific places that actually exist here that I put into the fable.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Last time we spoke, you were in Southern California, I believe, and you have
Yes.
adopted Austin, Texas as your new city, right?
Yes, I've been here 2 years now and just got back from going to a lot of South by Southwest events, which has been a lot of fun and a lot of people from Brene Brown to Mark Cuban in town. So it's a lot of energy around all that.
That's great. Well, and if any of our Gonzo family is watching this in our YouTube channel, you'll also notice that John has a very nice suntan, which I here in Rochester, New York, in March do not have. So I'm going to live vicariously through your suntan. So,
Okay. Okay.
so people think of storytelling as I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm going to read a book to my kids, or I'm going to tell you a joke in the form of a story, but why is storytelling as an adult, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, salesperson, why is storytelling so important?
We're literally wired for it, David. When someone presents a bunch of facts and figures, want that emotional connection because people buy emotionally and that with logic. And the stories go into our
Hey,
emotions.
John, I'm
And
gonna, I'm
most
gonna, I'm gonna,
likely,
John, I'm gonna have you start over because my internet or your internet just went out for a second. So,
oh, okay.
so we'll edit this piece. But so I just asked the question: why is storytelling so important to selling? So, go.
The reason that storytelling is so important to selling is we're wired for stories. If you just push out facts and figures, we go into the left brain analyzing it. But when you tell a story, it goes into the right side of our brain where emotions and all those good things like storytelling and listening and empathy live. And because people buy emotionally and then back it up with logic, whoever tells the best story is the one that gets the sale.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, people love stories, right? People like, even when you're telling a joke in the form of a story, there's so much more compelling. And and I know that when you're telling a story, you can make it relatable to the person that you're talking to. So maybe there's a shared experience that maybe if you're a really good salesperson, you know in advance that that story is going to resonate, right? And
Yes.
then, oh my God, I have done something like that, or you discover someone's kind of purpose or why during the story, right?
I have an example of that. It's really so important that you tell a story that the other person sees themselves in.
Yeah.
And once they see themselves in your story, getting them to say yes is like landing a plane. It's easy. It's literally, that's the kind of journey I want to go on with you because I related to the story so much. So the example is, I was working with a medical tech company and they said, we have this equipment that makes the surgeries go 30% faster, doc. Don't you want one? It's so logical. And I said, yeah, there's no story there. Now they tell this story. Imagine how happy Dr. Higgins was 6 months ago down at Long Beach Memorial. Using this equipment, he could go out to the patient's family in the waiting room an hour earlier than expected. And if you've ever waited for someone you love to come out of surgery, you know every minute feels like an hour. And he put them out of their waiting misery and said, good news, the scope shows they don't have cancer. And then turned to the rep and said, that's why I became a doctor, for moments like this. And that rep now tells that little case story to another doctor at another hospital who sees himself in it and says, that's why I became a doctor. I want your equipment too. And they're selling way more pieces of equipment now. And they even said, it gives us chills. Not only are we not telling stories, it never occurred to us to make a patient's family a character in the story. So that's the real essence of what we're doing here when you use storytelling as a sales tool. And guess what? You're not the hero. Your client is. In this case, the doctor is the hero.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you're putting the person you're talking to into the story and making it personal for them. Something's clicking for them, right?
Right.
And then of course they want to buy what you have, right? What you're selling. So, how about like a lot of business owners? We're certainly always selling the vision of the product, the vision of the idea, to our prospects and customers. How about internally with the team? You need to
Yes.
really make sure that your work family, your work team is inspired. What are some things that you can do to really help that angle of storytelling?
Well, there's two stories that help solve that problem of how does the team get on the same page. The first one is your own story of origin. How did you get into this particular business? What made you want to start a company? How'd you come up with the company name? What is the culture? What are the values? Tell that story. And then it gets to the company story itself. I remember speaking at the Coca-Cola CMO Summit, and I met the CMO of Aunt Anne's Pretzels. And they're at malls and airports. And I said, how did this start? She sold pretzels at one farmer's market, and it's grown from that. So that's a story about the company's origin, literally a rags to riches kind of story. And so now everybody knows the roots of that story and can retell it and remember it and feel part of that journey.
Yeah, thinking of South, down in your neck of the woods to some extent, Southwest Air. If you've ever done the story, or heard the story of how that airline started, it was Herb Callagher and Roland something, and they were having lunch and drew the idea of the airline on a napkin. Right,
Mm-hmm.
just flying to 3 different cities, and I know that that story has become legend. Right, and
Yes.
I still think they have that napkin like in a frame at their headquarters, right? So stories become legends a lot of times when companies are, it's always, two guys in a garage type of
Hewlett
thing, right?
Packard. Yes,
Yep,
that's the
Hewlett
Hewlett Packard story.
Packard, Steve Jobs, et cetera. And, yeah, so that is great. So when we are trying to, sell something as a business owner, as a salesperson, what are the most important things that are really important to be in a really good pitch?
Well, a good story has to be three things. It has to be clear, concise, and compelling. So let's look at the first one, clear. If it's not clear, if you confuse somebody with a bunch of acronyms or a story that doesn't have a point, the confused mind always says no. Then the second part is concise, because especially when you're pitching against competitors to get hired to sell your product or service, you need someone who's heard that story to remember it. So if it's concise and short, they can remember it and tell it in the meeting after the meeting. And what's that mean? Well, the meeting after the meeting is when they have heard all the pitches and they get together for that second meeting and say, well, what do you think? Well, they all sound the same. I guess we should go with the cheapest. No, wait, I heard a story. And then they can retell the story, because sometimes the decision makers don't hear all the pitches and they depend on the team to summarize it for it. And then the final one is compelling. You must have some emotion in there. The stakes have to be high for people to care about the characters in the story. So using words like struggle or overwhelmed or frustrated, some feeling words that get people to go, oh, that you understand our problem, so you must have our solution.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to personalize this for you. Right now, you're selling your book. You're a very successful speaker, professional speaker. How do you sell yourself? Why, there's a lot of speakers out there. There's a lot of books out there. Why are they going to buy you and or your book?
Well, you know how there's so many people in medical and tech sales that are struggling not to be seen as a commodity. They pitch and they hope that somebody remembers what they say, but more than likely not, they don't remember anything they say, and they end up coming in second place. And unlike the Olympics, there's no award for second place in sales. So I'm known as the pitch whisperer, and I come in and teach them how to tell stories that tug at heartstrings. And when that happens, people open purse strings and their revenue takes off. So whether you buy the book to learn how to be a better storyteller or have me come in as a sales keynote speaker to your team and work with them, that's where you get the results and stop coming in second place.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, I was lucky enough, because I know you, I got a little pre-sample of your book. So thank you for that. And you talk about every story has a hero, and who should that be? So tell us about that, please.
The need to have a hero that you're rooting for and that you see yourself in means you're not typically the hero. You're more the Sherpa or Yoda. So if you're calling on doctors, then the doctor is the hero of the story. If you're calling on lawyers, you have a story about a lawyer that you helped. So whoever your ideal client is, make that person the hero of that story so they relate to it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So once again, it's about them, right? Yep, it's about them. Now, sales is a very difficult business, right? We get a lot of no's, we get a lot of rejection. A friend of mine, Andrea Waltz, wrote a book called Go for No, which means like the more no's you get, you're getting closer to a yes. So don't be discouraged by no's. And she's right, but nonetheless, getting those no's are, really not a lot of fun, right? And so, salespeople have to have, and entrepreneurs have to have, thick skin and be resilient. What is your advice for that? And how do you continue to be resilient?
The way to be more resilient is something I've called the 5-5-5 method. So we're all going to get frustrated. We're going to get annoyed. We're going to get disappointed and eventually rejected in life. It's just part of life. So we need a tool to get back up fast when we get knocked down. So the 5-5-5 is something everybody can start using right away. If you get cut off in traffic, you either freak out or you let it go. You ask yourself, will this matter in 5 minutes? No, hopefully. And if it's something bigger, then you say, okay, will this matter in 5 minutes? Yes. How about 5 hours from now? Well, I guess it's up to me if I want to keep obsessing about it. How about 5 days from now? And if you zoom out like that, think of yourself as a movie director of your own life, you can get perspective and say, do I really want to be thinking about this 5 days from now? Or just talking about the rejection I got on the client? If you do, you can't be present for the next one. So 5-5-5 is what people are saying when they had a frustrating day, or no, I just 5-5-5 it, I let it go. Now, if something major happens, like a death in the family or something, you can do it again. You go, okay, 5 weeks from now, 5 months from now, 5 years from now. Like when my father passed away, I was really sad. I wish I'd had this tool then, because I could have said to myself, you're going to miss him in 5 years, but you won't be this sad in 5 years. And at the time, I was so engulfed in the grief, I couldn't imagine not feeling that forever. So 555, it start with the 5 minutes and take it up from there. And if you really had something tragic or hard to get over, take it in a longer time period, and it will help you get up and more resilient faster.
Yeah, that's good. I know. I got to keep that in mind because they're, even in life, right? Not just sales. There's
Yeah.
rejection, and you have to be, resilient. So that's a really good philosophy. I like that a lot. Did you make that up? Because I really like it. So,
I
all
did,
right.
yes. It's my IP, and it's in the sale is in the tail, and how to use it even more. So yes, that's one of the big takeaways from the book.
That's great. So, a lot of, entrepreneurs and business owners, they want to write a book. They want to be a speaker. Maybe they want to have a podcast, at the very least as a marketing tool for their business, or at the very most as a living. And what are your advice for people that are, starting out in that thought leadership type of business, and knowing that, these people may compete with you someday, but still you're going to share the love, right? So,
of course, I don't come from a place of scarcity. I learned that from Tim Sanders. I come from a place of abundance, so I'm not ever worried about someone competing with me or me competing with them. I stay focused on my own progress and don't compare myself to other people. That's the first piece of advice I would give somebody starting out, because you're seeing somebody at their Olympic moment, maybe on the, winning the gold medal, and you're just starting to try the sport out. You'll drive yourself crazy going, I have so much to go, for so far to go before I ever get a gold medal or get hired to speak or whatever your goal is. So I would say, regarding a book, within the word authority is the word author. You don't really hear it when you say authority. So when you are writing a book, you got to really own that you're the authority in that topic. And even if there's 100 other books around storytelling or sales or whatever your topic is, no one has your story. No one has your perspective. And so your mess is your message for both your book and your talk. Because the more vulnerable you are, the more people can relate to you. And so that is the first step to creating content that solves a problem and that people are willing to pay to have that problem solved.
Your mess is your message. That's super. I've heard somebody say your test is your testimony, right? I mean, it's, it's just really bringing that into your book, into your speaking, right? So making it personal, because you're right. There are a lot of speakers out there. There's a lot of authors out there. But you, as you say, you have to be able to stand out.
You might want to start that over again. You cut out again on your internet.
Oh, okay. All right. Monica, we're starting again here.
Start after your message. That's where you were cutting out.
Yeah. So I love that your mess is your message. I've heard that before. I've also heard it related to like your test is your testimony. And it's all about creating a message based on your own personal experience, but nobody else has, into your thought leadership, whether that's a book, a podcast, speaking, and really taking that unique journey, that unique experience, and personalizing it and being vulnerable, as Brene Brown says, to be able to help others, so that, as you say, you can stand out in the sea of sameness. The tail is in the sail, folks, right? So now your book is behind you. The book cover is blown up behind you. And there is a, what I'm forgetting the name of that, life preserver in there. Why is there a life preserver in the sea there behind you?
Because as a former lifeguard, we were taught to throw someone a life preserver before we jump in to try to save them. And I say that storytelling is your life preserver to keep from drowning in a sea of sameness. And so it's a nice little visual for people to remember, oh, if I have stories ready to go, I never need to worry about, let's see if I can get that in focus, drowning again, and people are going to remember me. So I created a little token that looks like a life preserver with tell stories, win sales. Being able to sum up in 4 words what you do really helps people remember your brand. So in my case, it's tell stories, win sales.
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh, that's great. You sent me one of those tokens and I saved it. Thank you very much.
You're
And it's
welcome.
a nice reminder of you. Every time I look at it, I think of,
Good.
oh, my friend John, what a guy. So this is a little off topic because it may or may not apply to all of our Gonzo family here, but it was mentioned in your book, if I remember correctly. But a great question that you can answer for everybody is, how can you tell if you are in the friend zone at
Yes.
work?
Well, many of us have been in the friend zone at work and dating, and we know that's no fun. And you can tell you're in the friend zone at work if you're in a sales situation where someone says, "Oh, I'm interested, David. Send me some information," and then it's crickets, and you don't hear anything back. You're like, "I thought they were going to buy. They said they were interested. What went wrong?"
Yeah,
That's when you're in the friend zone at work. Or if you're in a big corporate job and you don't get a promotion, and they ask you to train someone that they've hired from outside. You know you have the skills if you're training your new boss, but they didn't promote you, you're stuck at the friend zone at work. So the way out of the friend zone at work is to tell a story that intrigues people enough to want to know more, so you can get up to that irresistible level where what you have to offer is something they need now. It's not just a nice to have.
I love that. John, so I'm gonna put you to the test here as we wind down here.
Okay.
So let's pretend that you are talking to a group of people and your
Okay.
goal is to sell them your book. How are you going to do it?
Have you ever wished you knew a new way to sell without feeling pushy? Or maybe you're stuck in a slump and you don't know how to get out of it? Well, The Sale is in the Tail is an easy, fast read that pulls you into a story that you'll feel like what I've written might be something that you're feeling and just saying to yourself. And you'll learn some lessons along the way of how to get out of a sales slump, how to start using storytelling to give yourself a competitive edge, and not only that, how to possibly even get a promotion from storytelling. So if you're looking for any of those things, this is the book for you.
I'm sold. Got it. I already bought it, but yeah, I would have bought it again. So, and I love the fable part of it too. This very, Patrick Lencioni of you, right? I mean, those are my
Patrick,
favorite books, right?
me too.
And
Getting Naked was one of my favorite.
oh, that's a great one. That's a great one. And then, so your book is also on Audible, and you actually read it. I love when authors. I should say, I hate when authors don't read their book. It's so disappointing. I'm like, come on, you wrote this whole book. Spend an extra week and just read it, So thank you for reading your book. Appreciate that as well. And I do a lot of Audible these days. I think, people are on the treadmill or running or driving, et cetera. And, I think people are, quote unquote, reading a lot more these days because of Audible. Right. So,
yes.
Well, John, thank you so much for being on the Gonzo Experience. Very much appreciate it. If people want to reach out to you and learn more, get in touch, what are the best ways?
Well, if anybody wants a free sample of the first chapter, you can text the word pitch, Pitch, to 66866, and I'll send you the first chapter free. And if that doesn't pull you in, then you don't want the book. But if you want a free chapter, that's the way to do it. And if somebody wants to find me, John Livesay, Liv as in Victor, ESAY.com. And if you can't remember any of that, just Google the Pitch Whisperer and all my content shows up.
Excellent. John Livesay, thank you so much for sharing some heartbeats with us today. Very much appreciate what you're doing, and even more appreciate your time with us today. Oh, and I also appreciate the fact that you are one of the first members of my new business community called Utopia, YOU, Utopia. So thank you for that. Very much appreciate that. And I completely want to.
You're going to have to repeat that last minute. As soon as you went, and you're froze.
Oh my God. All right. Love this internet. Okay. All right, Monica, one more time. And I want to thank you for joining my new business community, Utopia Network, YOU, Utopia. Very much appreciate you joining that. You're one of the first members to do that, and appreciate that. So thanks, John, for making that happen as well.
Great. Unfortunately, you froze again, but I'm sure you can just do another pickup for your editing purposes.
All right. Yeah. I'll say it one more time just for fun. And hopefully that's it. All right, Monica, here we go. One more time. Sorry. John, I also want to thank you for joining Utopia Network, my new business community, where we're helping business owners, entrepreneurs, innovators with connections and classes and great conversations and community to help business owners be their best. So thank you for being one of the first members of Utopia Network. I appreciate that as well. And I also want to thank the Gonzo family for listening to yet another episode. We have a new episode every Wednesday morning. Love us, like us, share us, the whole works. Appreciate you. And I also want to make sure to tell everybody to make sure to stay awesome.